Okay, great. It's the top of the hour. It's 5 p.m. here in the UK and different times everywhere else where you are. Thank you for joining our latest webinar, which presented by CaptionHub is Timbra, consolidating in-room and live stream captions and captioning. I'm really excited about this one, and I'm really pleased that you've joined. So thank you for joining out of your busy days. I know December is a crazy time of the year with planning and also execution before we start another year. Just in terms of some housekeeping, this webinar will be recorded. We'll share it after the event. I'll also share this presentation that I'm going through as well. If you have any questions, then please put them into the Q&A box. I'll answer them if I can as I go through. Otherwise, I will try to answer them all at the end. And if I don't get to them for whatever reason, I will reach out to you and send you the answer if I need more information or if we just run out of time, which is what happens sometimes. We've got just about half an hour, so we're going to dive straight in and keep this at a relatively fast clip. I'm James Jameson. I'm CaptionHub's Chief Commercial Officer. I've been with the business for 10 years. And I'm just really excited to sort of follow, be part of this journey of creating media localization for the best and largest organizations around the world. And hopefully we can help you as well. Hopefully you'll see something that's relevant to your live production experience and requirements as we go through this. So what is Timbra? Timbra is our real-time localization platform and product. We decided a few months ago to brand and create a sub-brand underneath the CaptionHub brand, which is leading for media localization, because we were seeing a number of different ways of our customers using CaptionHub to localize their video in a live real-time environment. And it just made sense for us to bring this all into one product capability that we can treat very much as a unique capability and point at the real-time space. And this is what we're going to talk about today. It's Timbra, our real-time capability. So I'm going to talk just about some of the key features that we have here in Timbra. But what I'd like to do is spend most of today's session showing you the products, and hopefully you'll have questions as we go through this. Timbra has been designed for the most demanding operating environments on the planet. Those are large-scale events, such as Cloud World, or sports broadcasts, or large events that are just in-room. And what we have found over the last few years of being at the coalface with our largest customers is that there is a need to caption video that's streamed out to the wide world in lots of different languages. But there is also a need to have captions presented in the room. And I'll come on to why this might be. But if you could imagine you've got a room with a keynote at the front, lots of people are coming into that room, it's completely packed. You're struggling to see perhaps the keynote speaker, the CEO of a large tech brand, or even struggling to hearing because of the noise and the kerfuffle. There's a very sort of high sensory overload environment. And so for accessibility purposes, and it's not just accessibility for sort of hard of hearing, it's also accessibility for everyone. I very much rely on these in-room captions. And the way of doing these in-room captions sort of historically, traditionally, has been by deploying hardware. So sort of hardware encoders into the room. And typically with a hardware encoder, not only do you deploy that one encoder, you deploy a second encoder. So you've got some sort of resilience or redundancy built in. Now, to get that encoder into the room, you've got people flying it in, you've got people looking after it, you've got shipping costs and custom duties issues, all of those things that comes with managing hardware. It's 2025, it's soon 2026. And we just don't think hardware is the future in this world. Our customers are running huge productions, often very, very mature productions. And as it gets to the point where you go on air, having more and more hardware in a room just creates more and more risk for you. Whereas what we are trying to do here at CaptionHub is allow seamless consolidation, but with a really resilient and robust application architecture that you can rely on as a large brand. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today. CaptionHub really is deployable in seconds, and we pride ourselves on the depth of localization that we provide across both 250 languages, but also features such as sentence level translation, such as providing style guides on a per language basis. Our natural captions trademarked technology, which gives its own segmentation and consideration to grammatical style for each language. All of these things are really, really important. And when you are producing a live event that could cost millions, if not tens of millions, then the worst possible scenario is that you produce that event, you're streaming it around the world, and then you have poor quality captions that are either displaying profanities, getting your CEO's name wrong, getting product names that you're launching wrong, all of these things. You just don't want that. There is no sort of cost that's too big to have that corrected. But fortunately, CaptionHub as a cloud platform means that you can do this really at a fraction of the cost that we could previously do it with hardware encoders. And that's what we're really excited about. So it's about consolidating those in-room sort of legacy hardware encoders and a software environment for live streaming, but bringing all of that together so it's just a seamless few clicks of a button before a production that's resilient, that's ready to go, and is a check for you, but a big check in your accessibility and localization production workflow. And so Timbra very much covers the spectrum of real-time communications, from video broadcasts, so that's streaming from an event. It might be streaming from a sports event, from a stadium, or from a golf tour. It might be football. It might be another sort of tier one sports scenario. But it might also be in room. You might have 500 people, a few thousand people in a massive keynote audience. And it might also be from a studio, a remote studio, pushing that through a webinar around the world. CaptionHub and Timbra have very much now been designed to manage and deliver across all of those different methods, of which there are many. And there are also, of course, multiple applications for this. I mentioned some of them. We work right across these use cases and applications. They're in sports, they're live events such as NVIDIA, GTC, they're news like CBS, they could be internal town halls, they could be your customer summits or your partner summits. And of course, they can be webinars as well. So there's lots there when you start to break down that real-time environment. There's lots that can go wrong. There's also just lots of quality production and content that you want to have communicated. And really, that's what CaptionHub is about. It is about creating high quality communication based on the production quality levels that you've already determined through putting your events and your video recordings and streamings together. So some of the advanced features in Timbra before I come on to showing you the product itself, which I'm going to do very shortly. First of all, I mentioned the need for customizing the AI. AI is getting better and better. We're all part of the sort of very large hype cycle in AI at the moment. But by itself, it still doesn't keep up with, let's say I'm doing a product launch next week and that product terminology has been under wraps. The large language models or the machine translation or the speech recognition hasn't yet had a chance to catch up with that custom terminology. So what do I do in this scenario? Also, if I have let's use my CEO's name again. Let's say my CEO's name is Tim with a TYM, but actually the speech recognition here's Tim, TIM. Now, it might just misspell that every single time. There's a number of different things that can be misspelled and can have some fairly negative consequences on reputation and the overall image that you're presenting in your live production. So the first way to tackle this is bringing in custom dictionaries. And this gives you sort of AI-powered enrichment on the fly. It means that as the speech recognition is listening to the audio stream, that it's biasing for that custom terminology that you've had pre-populated inside of Timbra. So that's really important as a first step. Other things that are included in Timbra: AI summarization, audio event detection. So this is ensuring that we can detect things like music, speech, laughter, and then adequately present that as such on screen. But you've also got things that you can do around the captioning as well. So you can download a transcript. This is really important for your legal and press and comms teams when you're managing the events. You might get to the end of your keynote. Let's say you're an hour into a 9-hour sort of day-long corporate event. Let's take sort of Cloud World or one of the other major sort of tech events. And after that keynote, before you do anything else, your PR or your legal team or both are sort of knocking on the door and they want that transcript. That you can download that and you can send that without interrupting, any of the feed. You've also got the ability to deliver the captions and the real-time transcript through a whole bunch of different features that I'm now going to come on to very soon. But safe to say, this is technology that is proven with the world's very, very largest organizations. And in my view, the world's most exciting events that are just delivering cutting-edge content, cutting-edge technology messages through their events. GTC is one. We supported GTC DC, which is their AI-specific event last month. NVIDIA were running 15 parallel rooms, all with very, very technically nuanced talks. And CaptionHub was able to take that terminology and deliver that through an in-room companion. So people within the and delegates and attendees within the room could scan a QR code and then have immediate access to those captions. And that's possible to do in multiple languages as well as English. And similar, a couple of days after that was GitHub Universe, where we were doing a very similar thing, and again, into multiple languages over a couple of days. And this is a very sort of typical environment we see next to sports broadcasting and news and so on. There's a whole range of other technical features here that are really interesting, really important, and can absolutely support a very accurate, resilient play out of your captions in your streaming environment. But what I'll do is share those and show you now the technology itself. So I'm going to jump into a wider screen view here, just so you can see what's happening in the background. I'm going to share my whole desktop. It's completely clean, as you can see. And what I'm going to do here is set up a live event, and we're going to now caption that live event. And what I really want to show you is how quickly we can set that live event up. This could be any form of real-time broadcast. So effectively, what I'm doing here in a real-time broadcast is I have my video, recording equipment, my encoder, that's sending to a streaming service. This is all outside of CaptionHub and Timbra. And between my event happening, let's say it's the PGA Tour or Premier League match or your sort of large corporate event or town hall, between that video being recorded, so the actual sort of real-time event occurring, and your viewers watching that video on their device anywhere in the world through that streaming service, you will have a certain amount of latency or delay that's just inherent in broadcasting that video around the world. Timbra makes the most out of that few seconds by transcribing, translating, adding the custom terminology, all of those things, to then deliver captions back in a completely synchronized way to the audio. And that's what we're going to see here in a second. And I'm getting some great questions coming through here, which I'm going to answer as we go through. The first question is, how much time do we need for setup? Well, you'll see this very shortly, that actually we don't need much time at all. So what I'm going to do here is mimic a broadcast. We're going to set up a broadcast that's from OBS, and this essentially is behaving as our broadcast. So I'm going to sort of hit play here, start streaming, and you'll see my streaming service. In this case, we're using Video Cloud by Brightcove, this a video platform that we have partnered with for years. But you can also see that we support a whole range of other platforms. We support AWS, Mux, we can integrate directly with HLS, and I'll come on to the in-room captions as well. So let's come back into here.
What is the International Space Station? This is the International Space Station. This is an orbiting outpost that is humanity's first permanent home.
So there's my live video stream. That's coming directly through Brightcove. And now all I need to do inside of CaptionHub is jump in, create a new project from Brightcove, and you'll be able to see this new project immediately displaying here inside of CaptionHub. So let's just share my screen here. So the first thing we want to do inside of CaptionHub is tell CaptionHub if it should be using a custom dictionary. So that's my dictionary of terminology that has all of my terms. Now I can pull those in very easily. I can just select that. It's defaulted to English Global. Great. This particular live stream is a keynote speaker at NASA giving a keynote in English. Now, I'd like to also select some languages. I can have these pre-set up as my default languages. So actually, if I remove that, you can see that I've got 250 different languages here. Typically, our clients, what they would do is have all of their target languages set up as defaults. They'd hit select all, and it would just be ready to go. Now, you can also manufacture all of this so that it happens automatically through the API. What I'm showing you here is how we manually set this up. And obviously, I'm talking you through it, so it takes a little bit longer. But we can really get this set up now in a matter of seconds. And it really is this quick and simple. So we're going to add Spanish, German, Italian, and let's put some Hebrew in there as well so you can see non-Roman. And we're going to hit start captioning. So we'll just give this a second to start running the services. And you can see that CaptionHub and Timbra has now said that we are generating captions. We have a live event.
On Greenwich Mean Time, because the space station partnership spreads around the entire world. So we had to pick one time zone that everybody could reference off of. Space station does have Wi-Fi. A lot of the external payloads communicate with the inside of the space station via Wi-Fi. The space station is about the size of a football field, including the end zones from end to end, and from front to back is about the size of a football field to the sidelines.
So it really is that simple. We now have perfectly synchronized captions using NASA terminology. And as you can see, we have that in English, German, French, Spanish, Italian. If we needed to add more languages on the fly, we could do that as well. So within a matter of seconds, we have a resilient, accurate captioning flow that is sending captions to my users around the world. CaptionHub has been built for very, very high levels of scale. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of concurrent streams. We recently did a major event, and we had 1/3 of a billion of CDN touchpoints. That's our content distribution network that's distributing captions around the world. So we are really prepared for any level of scale. I'd just like to run you through a few of these features that you can see here in your administration panel. Bear that in mind that this is your sort of back-end panel. This is where you would be managing the captioning. But once that's set up, you really don't have to do anything at all. So what you can see here is we've got a really helpful monitor of our caption segments. You can see that I've got my HLS video that's coming in 6-second segments, roughly 6-second segments. And from those 6-second segments, we then take the audio, feed that through speech recognition, and create transcripts. With those transcript segments, then you can see they're smaller. We're trying to create segments that are enough in terms of the quantity to push those directly into translation. So we're creating true sentence level translation. That means, unlike you sort of see teletext and word by word translation, you're actually seeing translation that is considering the context, the preceding and the subsequent words in that sentence. That's really, really important to get a high level of translation. So the magic is, first of all, trying to get a high level of transcription quality, and then trying to get a high level of translation quality, but timing that to the video so that it's automatically synchronized perfectly to the speaker and in any language, but also is presented in a way that's really legible, where the captions are styled perfectly for your users. So this lets you really have full control over your captioning experience for a live streaming audience. You can also then manipulate the various machine translation languages that are created. You can add formality settings, informality settings. You can add your profanity filter on. And in the worst case scenario, if you were to sort of see something that came through, you've also got the ability to have a production mode. Now, most of our clients, granted, don't use this, but some of our clients will be operating in a broadcast room. They'll be either on a broadcast truck out in the wild, or they'll have a broadcast studio. And they'll be, running multiple rooms across a very complex broadcast workflow. And in that case, if you do need to have somebody, or you do want the reassurance to have somebody in front of a dashboard, then you can have eyes on glass, and you can have a show hide captions mute button here. Now, just coming back to some of those delivery methods as well. As I've mentioned, this is currently being delivered through Brightcove, but you've also got the ability to play that through any Video.js player. Will give you the script. You can insert that into the Video.js player. You can adjust the HLS. So there's a number of different methods depending on the players you're using, the ecosystem, technology ecosystem that you have, and essentially your requirements within your architecture, ranging from very simply, we have Vimeo or Brightcove or a video streaming platform, all the way up to very, very complex broadcast workflows where we're slotting into a more complex cloud-provided set of components that are very custom to your environment. And those are two ends of a very, very broad spectrum. So that's live streaming. As you can see, very easy, very high levels of accuracy. And so the next part that we want to look at then, if I stop captioning here, is, well, that's great. I've got this large event and it's now being broadcast around the world. And I have this translated into 25 different languages. But what about the people inside of the room at my live event, or in the stadium watching the soccer or the football or the basketball? I want those captions on screen on a Jumbotron overlaying my video, or I'd like those captions on a screen at the top of the stage, wherever it might be. So this uses a slightly different technology. If you're in room, you have to bias for speed and latency in a different way. With the HLS method, when you're broadcasting around the world, because you're broadcasting video, you just have a few more seconds to do all of the magic things. When you're in the room and you are part of the audience watching Jensen Huang on stage, or Larry Ellison, or whoever it might be giving their talks, the latency between that person speaking on the stage and the captions is really, really key. You don't want much of a delay there. It can be jarring, it can be confusing. So we try to get that as low as we possibly can. And the way that we do that is, rather than taking a feed from your streaming platform, we take a feed directly from your encoder. So we'll take a raw real-time media feed, or an SRT, essentially a raw video feed, and we'll take that into our platform. Now, let me show you exactly how this works. If you just give me 2 seconds and I'll spin this up again. So this time around, what we're going to do is we're going to create a in-room stream. And we're going to select it from RTMP, and we are going to hit Create Project. Slightly differently this time, what we're going to do is just input into our encoder. We are going to input the RTMP settings. So it's just a slightly different method to get things set up, but ultimately what we're going to result in is accurate captions. Okay, so that's now running, and you can see that immediately CaptionHub and Timbra has picked the encoding stream up, is processing it, and any moment now you'll start to see a transcript occurring here. There we go. And you can see the transcript is now creating. You can see our health monitor has received seconds of audio. And you can see that our original captions are also being created here. Now, this creates a different output method to timed captions that you might see embedded in a video. You will typically in Room want them displayed, as I said, on a screen somewhere, a separate screen, or overlaid onto a video. And so we're going to give you back in this situation a different set of options to display. You'll still get that real-time transcript, but as you can see, what you're getting here is a bias for speed. So rather than giving you back complete captions, we're giving you back word by word. Now, we're still transcribing and translating in segments as much as we possibly can be with the latency. That's up to you how much latency you decide. You can see here we've got a 4 to 6 second latency on the preview.
8 of them powers the space station. It's an entirely solar-powered vehicle. And that's the International Space Station, our orbiting home in space.
So if I just pause that for a moment and talk about the different methods that you can use in Room, very simply, we have a number of different methods. You can first of all have an in-room display where we give you a hyperlink, and that link can be pushed out to a screen somewhere. As you can see right here, what we also have is the ability here to have a QR code. Now, this QR code can be printed out. We give you that as a pack and a zip folder for each flow. Or you can have that, published on your screen at the front of the room. If you were to scan that now, you would see these captions pop up on your device wherever you are in the world. You could be in Room, you could be around the world. Now, the fact that you could be around the world also means that this lends itself to things like webinars or other broadcasts where you actually want to reach people outside of the room as well. Let's say your conference room is fully booked and there are no spaces. I was at a conference in Vegas last week, had exactly this problem. How do I see what's going on inside the room? It's entirely possible. I can actually see what's going on in multiple rooms, and I can have an AI summary to tell me exactly what's happening in those different rooms as well. So this lends itself not just to real-time engagement, but also to after the fact, after the event engagement, or periodic engagement with the event itself as well. A number of different features that we've got here around the in-room capability, but you've also got the in-room companion. And if I just very quickly show you what this looks like, you have speaker diarization, but also then the ability to change languages if I need to. Now, I'm very aware of time and we're fitting a lot into this very short webinar today. So I'm going to move on to questions and answers now. But hopefully that's given you a very good view of how you can consolidate your captions across live streams, but also in-room captions as well. So let's just take a look at some of the questions, the final questions that we have here in the webinar. Okay, so we have a question around linguists. Well, that's a great question. So a lot of what CaptionHub offers in the VOD, in the pre-recorded asset space, is around collaboration and workflow. Now, with Timbra, because we're biasing for speed, accuracy, and speed, we don't offer that person, human in the loop correction. Really, what you're trying to do here is getting the AI to work as hard as it possibly can in a very scalable architecture, application and infrastructure architecture scenario. What you can do, like I say, is you can add custom dictionaries, you can add term bases, and you can add those things that improve the AI, but you don't have that sort of human in the loop editing component. Some other questions coming through here. How does the pricing structure work? That's a great question. I'm really excited to sort of announce as part of this webinar that our pricing structure is incredibly flexible. We can offer this purely on a usage basis. So for those customers who are coming in, they're not quite sure because they haven't had the buy-in from the business yet, how many languages they want to run, or how many rooms they're going to run captioning for. And we've had this very recently on a number of occasions. customers will start off with, oh, we'll do this for 1 or 2 rooms. But then by the end of the week, it might be, well, let's caption all the rooms. It's really easy to do. Let's have that in English and Spanish on the companion voucher. So we have a pure usage model where you can start off from a very low amount and you're charged on a per minute basis, all the way up to we have customers paying us an annual subscription. And that's just dependent on essentially the number of minutes that you're processing. CaptionHub is a real-time, time-based platform, and so all of our pricing is very much based on the atomic unit of time. And I think we have time for maybe one more question I can fit in here. Afreem, thank you so much for the question here regarding the translation features. Which engine are you using? Google, MT, OpenAI, others, or something built by your company? That's a really great question. And I'm sorry that I didn't mention this earlier. CaptionHub doesn't build its own foundational technology. We're not a foundational AI company. We never have been. We never will be. We don't want to be. There are very large companies that do that and do that extremely well. What we like to do is build into the best of breed technology and offer that flexibility and choice to our customers. We currently use, on the machine translation side of things, we use DeepL, we use Google, and we use Amazon Translate. On the VOD side of things, we also use OpenAI, and we're integrating others. And depending on which language you need, it will default to one of those engines. So hopefully that answers your question there. And can you configure your preferred MT provider? You can totally point to some of the machine translation engines that we have if you have your own custom model, but not all of them. If you have a specific request there, Afreen, definitely get in touch with me. I can sort of help you explore the platform. I realise we're very much now over, sadly, the allotted half an hour by a minute. But I just want to thank you all for your time, for staying tuned into the webinar, and we'll follow up with you. But I wish you all a pleasant day, afternoon, evening. Thanks once again. And if you are interested in learning more, please do get in touch with me or my team, and we'll be sharing the contact details after this webinar. So thank you. Have a great day.